So I'm going to do a little meditation just to get us grounded and started, and then I'm going to say something about the Buddha. It's in the full moon month of May, or Vaishaka, that's the Buddha gained enlightenment. So this time of year, for 2,500 years ago. And I'm going to connect it to the theme of nature and Buddhism and nature. So, but just to start with, we'll contact our own natures with a little bit of meditation, just a short sitting. So if you want to get yourselves in some kind of position where you're comfortable, sit in a chair or something, and we'll just do 5-10 minutes just to tune in and connect. So in a way, the main one of the main things about one of the main images about the Buddha's enlightenment that comes to me is that the moment where he touches the earth, and his enlightenment is witnessed by the earth goddess. And there's this sense of connecting on a deeper level with ourself, with our senses, with how we're feeling, with others, with the world around us, connecting to our surroundings. So wherever you are, just have a sense of yourself in the room and a sense of yourself sitting or lying if you're lying. And that contact that you have with the earth, and letting the weight of the body as it does just sink down like the roots of the tree. Taking 2 or 3 deeper breaths, smooth, even in and out breaths. Any sounds, just let them be there. They arise and pass. Sense of your feet, sensation in your feet, toes, base of the feet, top of the feet, ankles and heels. So as we call out the various parts of the body, just sense, in touch with the radiant sensation, the vibrant sensation that is there. The calf muscles, shin, both knees, and the thighs, left and right. And the hips, left and right. And the pelvis. Not going into thinking, just sensing, directly sensing the lower belly, maybe the movement of the breath in the belly. The abdomen, left and right sides of the abdomen, left and right side of the lower back, vibrating, tingling sensation, the aliveness in your body, middle back, upper back into your shoulders, staying with sensation. Any thoughts or judging coming along, it's just another sensation arising and passing. Center of the chest, And any movement that the breath brings, left side of the chest, right side of the chest, tops of the shoulders. And from the shoulders, there's this nice flow of sensation down the upper arms, left and right, the elbows, forearms, left and right, and the palms of your hands. Just, they're very good, your hands, for sensing. Just let your hands feel themselves as they are. Any pulsing, tingling. Maybe you can even sense the pulse of your heart. And the throat, letting the throat and neck soften. The back of the neck, where the neck joins the skull. Back of the head. The ears, the folds of your ears. To the top of the head, scalp, forehead. And your eyes, eye sockets, sides of the head. And the face full of sensation. It's a sensation just as it is. Nose. Maybe either sense of the breath coming in the nostrils. Gentle attention to the lips and the tongue, top of the mouth, inside the mouth, teeth, and the jaw. And just gently picking up the rhythm of the breath. Maybe down in your belly. And a sense of just being in touch. Any feeling, quality or tone. Again, you don't have to think about it, just allow what's there to present itself. Sense of the ground, being grounded in your body, embodied sense. The primary sense of ourselves. And just taking a nice slow exhalation, in case you've just been holding slightly somewhere. Breathe in the chest. Let out a long sigh if you need. Let out any of the day's tension, tiredness, busyness. So we're here now, wherever we are. We're connected by magical means. So, yes, you can just slowly draw from your meditation, or you can just stay meditating. And I'm going to say a little bit about the Buddha and the period around the Buddha's enlightenment. And this is a very rich, in number of ways. You can describe it, talk about it in different ways, but we're going to talk about it mainly, or evoke it mainly in terms of images, because there's some quite powerful images. And when you, or when we work with images, I mean, I work a lot with images because that's my work really, Buddhist images. And you have a sense of the images are teaching you or telling or revealing themselves to you. So obviously you can have an image and you can read about incidents or stories and have an explanation, but in a way the images are there for your mind and your imagination to work on. And that's how you have a natural image making facility, and so it's staying with and waiting and being with images and letting them reveal themselves to you. So the first image we have really is the Buddha practiced what's called ascetic practices for quite a long time as a means of trying to break through, very determined means of breaking through. That it was like a willful or forced effort towards enlightenment, a sort of quite focused, very focused, but a very mental, willful effort. And this consisted in various practices like withholding from eating food, drinking very limited amounts, enduring extreme cold, extreme heat, sitting out in the midday sun, and holding the breath for very long, as long as you could, and trying to sort of, by some means of mental control, bring about some kind of awakening, crush or break the self. And he did this for quite a number of years with a number of other followers. And at some point, there's this very, as an image, he realized that his wisdom hadn't grown or arisen at all, or the kindness hadn't arisen in his heart particularly, and that this wasn't working. And he, interestingly enough, decided that he'd gone down a wrong path, which is quite a hard thing to do, really. So there's something in this image of someone, the Buddha to be, realizing that the whole lot of energy, whole lot of years, whole lot of his emotional life had been tied up in something which was leading him astray and wasn't getting anywhere. And he had the courage to acknowledge that mistake and move in a different direction. And this different direction was another image. As he was practicing, he just stopped. He stopped trying to do things. And this image spontaneously arose of a time when he was a youth, maybe a teenager, young boy, and he was sat under a rose apple tree, a beautiful sunny day in the shade, and he was watching his father working the land. I think his father was tilling the land as a ritual to till the first soil of the year for the sowing. And he slipped spontaneously into this very relaxed and profound state of ease, free of craving, free of anxiety, and enormous waves of pleasure flowing through him. And this is what he remembered. And he had this experience that he had been trying to deny or avoid pleasure through fear of pleasure. And he said to himself, why should I fear pleasure? Pleasure is an experience that arises and passes, but I can experience it without holding on to it, like I did at that time. It was a completely natural experience. You may have had those yourself, spontaneously, um, uncontrived experience. And so he realized that he was going to move from his this willful approach to practice, and he thought to practice further, I need nourishment. Literally, I need nourishment, but on a deeper level, I need nourishment. I am not nourished. And so what he did is he fortunately, one of the stories says he came across a cow herder, a woman, a maid who gave him milk and rice to nourish him. And, you know, it's more than likely that she may have been tending the cows in the forest, and for several days he took nourishment. He took some rice from her. His other ascetic friends deserted him, abandoned him, thinking he'd betrayed the cause. But he took this nourishment because he realized his body and his soul, his spirit, needed nourishment. So he was quite spirit driven, but there was something missing. It was not, there was something incomplete. And you could say that, you know, the milkmaid taking nourishment is releasing, relaxing, and yielding into a more feminine principle, involving the senses, the heart, and the soul. So from this point, he sat underneath the Bodhi tree. The Bodhi tree is this beautiful heart-shaped leaves, very large tree. A kind of I don't know how you describe a Bodhi tree really. It's sort of it's like a band of muscles. The tree is like a band of thick muscles, and they grow very, very, very wide. They can be hundreds and hundreds of years old. And of course, the Buddha was meditating in the forest. The forest 2,500 years ago, you know, vast swathes of India would have been covered in forest, in trees. And the thing about a forest is, if you think of trees, a healthy tree is a tree that's in relationship to other trees. A healthy tree is part of a network. Trees create their own environment, which is a forest, where each of the trees and the soil, the animals, the birds, they all work together as a complete organism. And so the Buddha was meditating in the forest, in the wild, yeah, in the untamed, which is what the forest represents, what the jungle represents, and uncontained, uncontrolled, unlimited. And that's where he was meditating. So he sat beneath the Bodhi tree and determined to just sit there in a sort of heartfelt way, just to sit there and to practice, but in this more relaxed way, where he would allow pleasure, and from pleasure you get emotion flows. You do the metta bhavana, one of the methods is to focus on pleasant sensations, and that allows a kind of moistness, allows the emotions to start to be involved, whatever they are. So he started to do that, and his experience started to fill out. And he had a series of reflections at this time. But as he was getting quite deeply concentrated over a period of hours, even probably days, various things happened, various images started to arise. And in a way, these images are there for the Buddha, but they are images that are very immediate to us in our everyday experience. So the first series of images are, they're sort of imaginative, called Mara, Mara's daughters. Now, Mara's just means something like obstacle or obstruction, and in this case, an obstacle or obstruction to awakening, to freeing the heart and mind. And So this is a sort of like an archetypal image of what the mind does. The Mara is really the mind, in the mind. It's not a devil objective entity. It's just in the mind or in the human mind. And Mara represents the forces of greed or selfishness, hatred, ill will, and ignorance, which keep the wheel of life turning. And he is not very keen. You know, in the wheel of life, you have these are the things that keep everything, the whole world, the conditioned existence, spinning round. And the Mara, or the mind, the ego self, doesn't really want an enlightened being sitting beneath the world tree, which connects the heavens to the earth and on a horizontal plane as well. The center is called the Vajrasana, the diamond throne of awakening, the center of the universe, the center of the cosmos. He doesn't want compassion, wisdom, liberation, being at the center of the wheel, yeah? He wants that sense of me and not me to be the center. So various things arise, and you could say they're rising in the Buddha's mind. The first is what's called Mara's daughter. They're various images, they're just images. So when we have craving or desire for something, it's usually an image connected to it, yeah? If that makes sense. So it might be a person, it might be sex, it might be a drink, it might be anything that the mind can take hold of. So you could say where there's grasping or holding on to or reaching out to something, some object, there is a self. So for the Buddha, this just arose, spontaneously as image of beautiful women, yeah? He'd been surrounded by beautiful women. That was probably a memory of being in the court, and he being a sexual being, that's the object. But it could be any object of the mind, and that could arise. And you sit there meditating. I meditate every day. I enjoy meditating quite a lot. I find it pleasant, very nourishing. So. But even within that, sitting there, sensing, I might be sensing the sensation rolling down my arms and going, oh. And then an image of a bunch of records I need to sell or something comes up in my mind, and I'm off thinking about that. Oh, I've got that seller in Russia who, died. And then I'm off, I've just gone. I've attached or got caught up in the object. And that happens all the time. All these things are arising, whether some sound, Malcolm outside is now mowing the lawn. And you have a response, your mind goes off. Or, like the Buddha, you don't identify with them, they're there. You can't stop them being there. You can't stop stuff arising. But he just sat there, just carried on, in the meditation gesture, like Amitabha. He just sat there. And this sense of them arising and passing, these things, arising and passing. There's this sense, this gesture, it's hard to see on a complete screen, but there's a sense of, it's like a circle, a complete circle, complete. So as I said before, the emptiness of self is revealed through non-grasping. And when we don't grasp anything, there's nothing. There's nothing. And in that nothing, there's everything. It's complete. You don't need anything. So the Buddha's experience is not of denial, but of completion, wholeness. Yeah. I think there's a Chinese master who said, if you want to overcome craving, love everything. Something like that. Yeah. Just love everything. Yeah. Don't push stuff away. Don't draw it towards you. Just welcome it all. So there's this sense, and a lot of Buddhist meditation is based on this kind of experience. There's a little quote from Padmasambhava. As regards the objects of the mind, the restless movement of whatever thoughts arise, don't be involved in the mind's activities of expectantly welcoming future thoughts and following after past thoughts, by keeping mind firm and leaving the restless movement in its own place, it is liberated into the body of the Buddha. So leaving the restless movement in its own place. So that's what the Buddha does there. And so that is said to be overcoming the sense of grasping. And then the next image is of Mara in fury, with the Mara's army throwing weapons, spears, daggers, whatever, to evoke fear and ill will in the Buddha. So you have the kind of aggressive pushing away energy. I don't want this. I don't want this, which is known as aversion. The not wanting, the rejecting, pushing away, which, you know, we can have with any sense object, with any sense, any feeling within. It could be towards ourselves, towards another person. I live with other people. I love them, but they drive me mad at the same time. You know, I've got 3 kids. You know, they're wonderful, but they are uncontained dynamos of the universe. Do you know what I mean? You know, they just create mess. You have to tidy up the mess, and you go, oh. But it is as it is, as they say. So this is what happens. You can get assailed by the world. I can sometimes feel assailed by the world. And the Buddha's response was simply to put his hand up like this, in this gesture of fearlessness. Which again, as an image, you can gesture the mudra. I could say something about that, but perhaps and the images of hatred coming towards him transformed into a falling rain of flowers. So what I had a thought of this. It's interesting. I had a thought of this the other day, that I work online quite a lot, and I get quite a lot of emails from various people because I sell stuff online, and I get all sorts of emails. And you wake up in the morning, you look at emails and think, oh, what's this one? And sometimes it's someone saying, oh, it didn't arrive in time, where's my parcel, or something, you know, or that record was scratched, or something, or someone asking a question, can you give me a discount or something. Something I noticed is, you know, I can sometimes I get someone's not happy about something, and I feel attacked, you know, something coming at me, and I can go, oh, bleep bleep bleep, you know, and get angry about it. And then I realize usually what happens is it just resolves, you know, and it resolves because I think I had this thought the other day, because I think somewhere I just sort of, the important thing to me is to practice kindness, be honest, and to practice generosity. So I have that somewhere as a background. So even, you know, it doesn't matter to me if I have to fully refund someone, or I have to do this or that, or chase after, spend all this energy chasing after things. Because it's like at the base, what's important is that kind awareness and generosity. And that makes things very simple. Do you know what I mean? Rather than getting into an argument with somebody about something that hasn't gone right or something, you know, you just, and then you get someone saying, oh, that's very honest of you, or that's very fair, or whatever. Not that you want that back, but it's just like, so it's almost like if you have your practice, you have something solid there that can transform, you know, that anger, the initial response. I still get the initial response of anger, but it just transformed into something else with a few emails, a bit of phone call or something like that. And it's like 99% of the time it just resolves easily. Do you know what I mean? Even if I get wound up. So I get assailed, but there's some kind of reflex. So I think that's what's happening with the Buddha. That's just something that occurred to me with the image anyway. You might have other things that come to you. So the last, and probably, you know, one of the most significant elements is is the element in the imagery. You know, Mara says, well, look, what right have you got to sit here and say that you are awakened, that you're liberated, you're free? Who is your witness? And as he said that, the Buddha didn't say anything. He doesn't say anything in any of these things. He doesn't start talking. He either gestures, he sits there, and in this case, he just touched the earth with his hand, and out of the earth trembled, and out of the earth, this beautiful, arising out of the earth, this beautiful goddess figure appeared, the mother goddess, the earth goddess, and said, I have witnessed the Buddha practicing for year upon year, lifetime upon lifetime. So what arises is doubt. It's, again, the mind, the questioning mind, the judging mind that can come in and undermine. But the Buddha, in touching the earth, he connects to his own history, he connects to his own practice, he connects to his own heart. But also in the gesture, when you touch the earth, you connect to your surroundings. And his surroundings is the nature around him, the trees, the forest, the world. So often, when we are in that sort of doubting mind, the attention is all drawing up into thought. And when we're up there abstracted, we're out of our senses, we're out of our bodies, and we've lost contact with the environment. You could say that in a broad sense. We've lost contact with our surroundings. So as a practice, it's quite good just to draw back into your body and senses and just be aware of what's around you, the sounds, the smells, the colors, the shapes. Just come back and you come back like you do in meditation. You just come back. You go off somewhere and you come back, and you just have it's your breath. That's what the breath, or your body, or the Buddha in front of you on a shrine or something, and you come back and you're reconnected. And we're doing this all the time. We're just going off into thought. These thoughts that come and they seem so attractive, but they're just like the sound of the bird outside. It's just like this. It just comes and they go, and then you get hooked into them and you're off. And they lead you all sorts. It can lead people into all sorts of trouble. So it's not you don't have them. I've got kids, as I say, you have to think about work, you have to think about what they need, you have to think about all sorts of things to do, the washing, the cleaning, whatever. So you have to think. But you keep the mind, like the Padma said, keep the mind firm and steady, and some space for these things to arrive, and not fuse or over-identify with them. But the earth goddess also represents something else. It represents, again, this thing we talked about earlier of there's a wholeness. She represents the body, the senses, the emotions, even soul, being drawn into relationship to the mind, to the thinking mind, to the directed, the rational mind, so that there's a sense of wholeness with that, rather than just a drivenness of the mind. And you could say, if you look at the world, that there is this imbalance, and it's an imbalance in the soul, or in the human mind. As a loss of contact, for me, a loss of contact with the goddess principle. You could see that within yourself. You could see it within nature. Nature needs an image. Nature has images. Nature produces images. All the time. And the goddess is an image of the spirit or sense of nature as a living being, as a living present that needs worshipping, that needs caring for. And then above all, in a way, you could say, I was thinking of this in terms of gratitude. So I was thinking of wood, trees, right? There's the shelves. My shelves are made of trees. The floor is made of trees. The bed is made of trees. The chairs I was sitting on having my dinner, the table I was eating from, are made. The paper that I was writing on for this talk. How much do trees give you? Apples, fruits, nuts, leaves. It's unbelievable what the tree gives us, yeah? And the tree, the world tree, connects the upper worlds, the lower worlds. And the Buddha sits beneath the Bodhi tree, yeah? And that's where, beneath the tree, he gains enlightenment. His mother gave birth to the Buddha under a tree. He sat under the rose apple tree and had that spontaneous vision. He gains enlightenment under the tree, and he dies lying under the sal trees in Kushanara. His life is intimately connected with the forest and with the trees. So after his enlightenment, apparently the Buddha sat there for a week, and then he moves, and it says he sits underneath the Muchalinda tree, the Aryajala tree. He moves in a mandala around, spends 7 days facing in towards the Bodhi tree and meditates all the way around the tree. And on the 49th day, the heavens erupt, the monsoon pours down, and then the Naga king unravels himself and spirals around the Buddha, and his serpent hood, 7 heads, over the Buddha and protects him from the rains. And that's again, it's another natural image, the serpent energy of the earth, the waters, rises up and acknowledges the Buddha. The Buddha has assimilated the depths, and he's risen up through the heights of the tree to the sun crowned. The heights and the depths assimilated. He's meditated all the way around the tree, the central tree. So there's this sense again of wholeness. So the Buddha's experience is you could say is one of wholeness. Everything's included in that mandala. Anyway, so I think I might finish with a little reading. There's a book. There's a book called The Overstory. I don't know. Some of you may have heard it. It's all about every page. There's something about trees. It's just about various characters linked together by trees. But anyway, there's this little bit in this, and I'm going to read this if I can find it. Oh yeah. There are no individuals in the forest, no separable events. The bird and the branch it sits on are a joint thing. They arise together. A third or more of the food a big tree makes goes to feed other organisms. Even different kinds of trees form relationships and partnerships. If you cut down a birch tree in a forest, a nearby Douglas fir will suffer as a result. In the great forests of the East, oaks and hickories synchronize their production of nuts to confuse the animals that are feeding on them. Word goes out, and the trees of a given species, whether they stand in the sun or the shade, wet or dry, bear heavily or not at all, together and as a community. Forests mend and shape themselves through underground connections, synapses, and in shaping themselves, they shape tens of thousands of lives, other lives as well, linked to the other creatures. Maybe it's useful to think of forests as enormous, spreading, branching, underground super trees. So we have an image with the forest there, you know, connecting. For example, there's, I'm just digressing. There's a type of fungus that works its way into the roots of certain trees and feeds on the sugars from the trees, because these fungus can't produce sugars themselves. And what they do is, as they burrow into the roots, they bring minerals into the tree. I mean, it's just a small example, yeah, of these infinite number of connections that are going on. So the tree as a symbol of the Buddhist teaching is perfect, because everything is connected. Everything is part of an interconnected web, patterns weaving together. And the situation we find ourselves in at the moment really clearly reveals how connected we are to each other and to the various networks, you know, of supply and so forth that we're part of, and that these are all quite fragile because they all come into being. They're all rising. Various worlds have risen and come into being, and they're passing away all the time. Anyway, so on that note, I hope that's been of some kind of value. It's very hard to know because I could see Lotus's face and a few other faces, but it's very hard to know. So anyway, thank you for that opportunity. It's helped me connect with the whole theme again, and yeah, that'll do for now. I don't know what to do.
So it's okay, I've got you.
Okay, all right.
So thank you so much, Dhiramati. That was wonderful. And I'll be looking at that book.
Yeah, or just there it is.
You're gonna plug the book. Yeah, The Over Story.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah. Okay. So now Zoe and Natalie are going to do some mantra for us. I don't know if anybody else has done mantra online yet, but everybody's going to stay muted, and they're going to sing, and you are encouraged to either sing in your head or sing in your house if you've got the space and calling to do that. And it's very beautiful. It's, you know, it's kind of still it's again this co-created web that we're in all the weekend. And so let's enjoy that for a while.
Excuse me, can I just ask you, can you tell me the name of that book, please? I didn't get it.
It's called The Over Story.
Okay.
All one word.
Thank you. The Over Story.
Over Story. Richard Powers.
Richard Powers. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Actually, it might be worth saying, Dhiramati, are you willing to take questions if anybody's got questions?
Yeah, if you know, just for maybe just 5 minutes or something, you know, so anyone, yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
I believe in you. Yeah, if anybody's got questions, and then we'll go on to the mantra.
No questions? Fine.
Okay, good. So I'm just going to mute you, and I'm going to unmute Zoe. You ready, Zoe? You're on it. Okay. I'm going to pin you as well. So just do that. Okay.
So we're singing the Shakyamuni mantra. Please join in if you know it. The words are Om Muni Muni Shakyamuni Maha.
You did it wrong.
Oh. Maha, sorry. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakyamuni Swaha. And please excuse me, my voice isn't that good, but Natalie's playing's brilliant. Oh, Muni Muni Ma Muni Shakyamuni Swaha. Oh, Muni Muni Ma Muni Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni. 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 Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Mahamuni. Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Mahamuni. Shakyamuni Swaha. Om. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
thank you so much, Zoe. That was really wonderful. It's really not an easy thing to do, to sing by yourself in these Zoom calls. So thank you.